We've all seen articles about funds with impressive recent returns. It's tempting, isn't it? Why wouldn't you want to invest in last year's winners? Well, Morningstar looked at thousands of funds to see what happens when you chase top performers. The findings are devastating. In 11 out of 20 fund categories, not a single top quartile fund stayed in the top quartile for 3 consecutive years. Not one. So what's going on here?
I think a lot of smaller retail investors, they tend to anchor to recent performance, and that was sort of what we were trying to get at in this paper. I've gotten those questions myself in emails and whatnot. People asking me about what performed well over the past year or whatever, and I always try to steer them away from you shouldn't be paying attention to that because it's actually not important in the long run. And that can also be very misleading in the short run, for that matter.
The researchers found that the probability of a top quartile fund staying at the top from year to year was close to 25%, essentially random chance. And it got worse during volatile periods. During the 2020 market turmoil, for example, that probability collapsed to just 15%. In other words, you'd have better odds throwing darts at a list. Here's how Daniel Sotiroff explains it.
The bigger conclusion that you get out of all that is that when you're looking at actively managed funds and strategic beta funds, the results tend to be very random. We tended to find that where you landed, which quartile you landed in, was somewhat of a coin flip, if you want to say, or maybe more of a four-sided dice, if that's like a better analogy, because we're talking quartiles here. But it was very random in terms of the outputs. But when you got to the passively managed funds, they tended to hover around the midpoint of their category.
That last point is crucial. Broad index funds don't chase top returns. They aim to deliver average returns. But the key thing is that they achieve these returns much more cheaply than active funds. So after costs, they consistently deliver above average returns.
You really got to pay attention to the fees you're paying. That is a persistent advantage regardless of the market environment. It's always going to be there. That's probably the number one most important thing. We found that in other studies that we do. We do a fee study every year, and the results always come back the same. It's always fees. I feel like I'm beating a horse to death at this point talking about it. And I'm sure we all have, but it's so important, and there's still people out there that I think don't quite understand it.
Think about what this means. Investors agonize over 3-year track records only to discover that past performance is essentially random. Meanwhile, the one genuinely predictive factor, cost, requires no genius, just maths. Lower fees mean higher net returns, compounded year after year. The evidence is clear. Chasing yesterday's winners is a loser's game. Focus on what actually matters: broad diversification and cost control.